Back with another part to this series, making Count the Ways One Time Freddy model, remaking him to make it look like Count the Ways. And I think it looks pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of it, but I think I might put wires for this arm. So basically, all you have to do is get a layer of pink. And extend that out. And out. And how do I want to do this? Whoops. Also, you're going to want to have all the things I have in inventory. Hold on, guys. This doesn't look right. Hold on. I'm gonna have to go to the road. Anyway, like I said,
Far more often than chance. And while playing Among Us, it stayed around the same rate. There are obviously some more complications in this game than the usual mafia or werewolf scenario, but at the end of the day, regardless of what side I'm playing on, I have a pretty proven winning strategy that I've worked on for years, and one that continues to function really well in Among Us. All these other jelly beans online dealing with strategies in the 200 to 400 IQ range, if you're playing like a theorist, we're talking about strats in the 1,000 IQ range. So today, I'm teaching you the perfect strategy for Among Us. How to win regardless of what side you're on. And it all boils down to one thing: game theory. That's right, the namesake of this show. So, are you ready to start winning like a theorist? Then let's begin. So, game theory. It isn't just the name of a really awesome online show that you should totally be subscribed to. The phrase actually originates as the study of constructing mathematical models to analyze strategic interactions among people trying to make rational decisions. That is a really boring definition for what's otherwise a really cool concept. It's basically the gameplay of Among Us. When you're in a situation where people are gonna lie and manipulate information for their own gain, game theory is there to help you figure out what to do. And the first thing I gotta tell you to do, my friends, in this game theory about game theory is kill people. Yeah, I know it sounds harsh, but let's face it, this channel is at its best when people are dying by the boatload. But the same holds true for your win-loss stats in Among Us. Because there will always be more crew members than imposters, any economist should be able to tell you the basic consequences of that. Imposters, being more scarce, need to treat their lives as more valuable than those of the crew members, who are more abundant. If you're in a 10-player game and a crew member dies, the crew has only lost 12.5% of their team. But if an imposter dies, suddenly they've lost 50% of their team. Might seem like an obvious fact, but it actually comes with several consequences for how you should be playing the game strategically. For one thing, thing, it means that crew members should be looking for opportunities when they can trade their lives for imposter lives. And it means that imposters should be trying to avoid getting themselves into these kinds of situations. Now, written that way, it's a bit confusing, but it becomes a lot more clear in an example. Let's say that it's early in the game, and a crew member, say, I don't know, Alpha Rad, has stumbled onto another crew member, Disguised Toast, who's standing over a dead body. Disguised Toast is one of our imposters, and while Alpha Rad doesn't know it for certain, it's pretty easy for him to put 2 and 2 together. One dead body plus one suspicious individual equals a probable imposter. So Alpha calls for a team meeting and says, Toast just killed someone. I saw him standing over the body. Now, one possible response for Toast is to counter-accuse Alpha Rad. After all, both he and Alpha were near the body. He might come up with his own version of the same story, claiming, wait a minute, Alpha Rad was the one who killed the crew member, and I was the one who stumbled onto him. I mean, this is a conversation that happens in literally every round of every game of Werewolf, Mafia, and Among Us ever, right? But here's the thing. It is absolutely the wrong move to make in this sort of scenario. While it might be tempting for Toast to do this, once Alpha Rad and Disguised Toast accuse each other, the crew knows that one of them is definitely the killer. Even if Toast survives that round, from this point forward, he's a marked man. At that point, the logical thing for the crew to do is just throw them both out of the airlock. True, they might be killing an innocent, but given how abundant and expendable crew members are, it's a sacrifice that will, in the long run, preserve more lives and ultimately lead to a higher chance of winning the game. What Toast should do in this situation, and what your optimal play is to not counter-accuse. Instead, he should try to come up with a lie that doesn't cast blame on Alpha Rad, saying something like, I stumbled onto the dead body and was investigating the crime scene to see if the killer was nearby. Granted, people might not believe that story. In fact, they probably won't. But it's your single best chance of surviving the next rounds of voting. And that's the key takeaway here. If you're an imposter, avoid putting yourself in situations that allow crew members to sacrifice one of their own in order to get rid of you. On the other side of things, if you're a normal crew member, your main goal in the game is to not look suspicious. You probably were doing that already, but it's important to realize why. Most people want to avoid looking suspicious because it results in them dying by getting thrown out of an airlock. But as we've already established, your life is meaningless in the game. It's a pretty important clause to have added there. Your life in the game is meaningless. Slap that one on a demotivational poster. No, the real reason to avoid looking suspicious is that it distracts your team from identifying the real killer. If they spend the round throwing you out of the airlock, obviously it sucks that you died. But the real loss here is that they wasted a round that they could have used to potentially identify the real killer. This is the reason why you should always travel in groups, not so much for safety, but rather for information. Because if one of you dies, the other will be left alive to give a report on how it happened. Adding one more wrinkle to this formula, if you're in a game with 2 imposters, you have to worry about the possibility of a double murder, where 2 imposters team up to kill 2 crew members. Which means that, contrary to what you might be thinking, traveling in groups of 3 can actually be better than traveling in a group of 4. This also applies to the team meetings. It can be easy to want to skip to the part where you try to accuse the person that you think's the killer, but that, more often than not, just winds up being a big argument where everyone's tossing out accusations. Rather than starting things off with the question of who seems guilty, start instead with the easier and more evidence-based question of who seems innocent. Determine first where the body was found and who wasn't close enough to have killed him. Then figure out which crew members can verify each other's alibis. Focus on the facts before you move into speculation. Give each person a chance to say where they were, and give them a chance to say anything that could vouch for another crew member's innocence. Once you have a better idea of which crew members seem the most likely to be innocent, you're in a much better position to root out the real killer. Because at that point, you'll know which accusations are coming from people who are actually credible and which crew members are just trying to spread misinformation. And if you're an imposter, well, you should be trying to do the exact opposite of all of that, but not in the ways that you might initially think. When people think about deception in games like this, they usually think about it in obvious ways, like when you accuse an innocent person of being the killer. But those kind of lies and misinformation are often the most blatant and easiest to catch. It immediately puts a target on your back. While a false accusation can have short-term benefits, it's often better to focus on the smaller, more subtle ways that you can steer the conversation away from discovering who the real killer is, i.e. you. If someone starts rambling, don't interrupt them. Let them ramble. Eat up the time that could have been spent more productively. Then you have room to accuse them by claiming that their rambling might have just been a tactic to waste valuable meeting time. Try and find subtle ways.
A little bit of building, I have this. After a little bit of testing and a little bit of building, I have this right here. The head, I fully
Here's a
built
fun
the
trick.
head.
If you believe that someone is 100% not the imposter, stand next to him and align yourself. So when an imposter comes to finish one of you, he'd get a good surprise. Here's one more fun video.
So anyway,
If you like these tricks and want a part 2 of
Huh. So this is the Among Us game everybody's talking about?
Yes, yes indeed, good sir.
Oh, hello there.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is the Gentleman. This here is my associate, Mr. Cheese.
My name, Mr. Cheese.
We're dropping like flies, people. We really need someone to step up to the plate and give us a lead.
I know who the imposters are.
Stoner, you got anything? Dude, like, it's gotta be good.
Alright guys, this is Count the Ways One Time Freddy. So far, it looks
And that's
so
the whole story.
bro.
So it should be pretty obvious by now that it's the gentleman. Vote him out now, and we win.
My dear boy, you are woefully befuddled. I, in fact, believe you to